Hello ladies and gentlemen. Today I want to show you another personal best of mine in a game that many of you probably know. It is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and the category is any percent blindfolded. Many of you might know that I've been grinding this the past few months. I started to learn this project I think quite a while ago with some breaks in between. But today I want to provide a little commentary over my newest PB, which I got recently, and give you some information about what happens in the run, what kind of glitches we use, kind of a bit of the history of this whole game and the blindfolded speedrunning community within it. As well as just some basic information, because there are really cool things and tags that you would not really notice as a just as a viewer of this speedrun that would probably need some kind of little explanation here and there. So let's start right in. At the beginning, Link wakes up from his deep slumber, and as you can see, timer starts on moving Link for the first time, not actually from hitting new game. It's a decision by the community. I honestly don't know exactly the reasoning behind it, but I guess it makes sense. So the beginning of Breath of the Wild is very long and cutscene heavy, so this is kind of the downtime. The pacing of Breath of the Wild is, it starts out rather slow and then ramps up with difficulty and action and everything until it gets to the end, reaching the climax of difficulty and coolness with the Ganon fight. So it's a very steady upwards curve in terms of action and pace. Now, let me explain a few things while the cutscenes here in the beginning are playing. So you can see I am blindfolded, first of all. This is the main and most important thing, I guess. But in order to play, many people might ask, how do you play such a game blindfolded? It is open world, it is 3D. Many people don't know blindfolded speedruns much at all, and they maybe have seen a Super Mario Bros. Run or a Super Mario 64 run. But Breath of the Wild is a whole different kind of genre, right? It's a bit of an RPG, an adventure. It has climbing elements, and in general, it's pretty different from the classics, I would say. So we use quite a lot of different techniques in blindfolded Breath of the Wild. One that is very prominent throughout the run, or the two most important ones I quickly introduce here. One is Z-targeting and bunny hopping. You can see me sometimes holding the target button. It's the same concept as an Ocarina of Time, where Link kind of can strife jump forward, do backflips, and these kind of jumps are at least kind of normalized. They are normalized, but it's very dependent on the terrain that you stand on. So we use a lot of these kind of jumps for setups, and the main method of getting across this whole big land is, for me personally, it's called pseudo beat counting, because there's not really a background music in Breath of the Wild. So what I do in order to move from A to B is I count in my head the a rhythm of 174 BPM, which translates to roughly the slider music from Super Mario 64, like the dun 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 dun. And this kind of tempo I count in my head, and based off that I do inputs. So you can, for example, see here we get the first weapon of the game, the axe, and all the way, everything that you see on my screen is counted in my head with the Super Mario 64 slider music. Now, there are different approaches. There are currently 3 people who run any percent, and everyone is using kind of different strats, which is very interesting in my opinion. The first route that was developed was by Saver, and it involved basically 100% bunny hops. So the entire way through the world, you counted jumps of Link, which is rather slow, I would say, but it's still a very preferred route, especially for beginners and people who don't have a notched controller. Currently, the Japanese runner Mariana is using that route and optimizing it, holding the world record in the... We separated the categories into bunny hops and notched controller, basically. I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, I believe Saver counts the footsteps in his runs, or something else. I'm not very sure. I have actually never asked him. But as I said, I personally count the beats in my head from Super Mario 64. Now here is the very first, like, crucial part that might go wrong. We have to beat count into this cave and then find this terminal here. In this video, it went perfectly. I ran into the cave, grabbed some arrows on the way, and that's the first part that we have to do. We activate the tower, which is like a kind of checkpoint. In the visual speedrun, this is all skipped, by the way. So the visual and blindfolded speedrun are actually very different, which makes for a very cool showcase if people are even familiar with the visual speedrun. And you kind of see more of the game, I would say. So it's also very interesting for casual people who have never seen the speedrun at all before, because the blindfolded route kind of explores a bit more. It's not only like crazy glitches. But yeah, as I said, we have 3 runners and we all use a bit different strats. Everyone has like their own kind of little routes and ideas. Currently, me and Saver are working on exactly this notched controller route. We are optimizing here and there still. The route is still not finalized. There is not really a fine optimization. Both me and Saver use a very different route at the moment, which I will come to later. It involves what items and which route we pick, etc. But first I want to talk about a glitch that we perform right now. So, how do we get down from the tower? As you can see here, I do a very weird motion and I just jump down from the tower while throwing my weapon. And this is a trick called fall damage cancelling. What you basically do is you have to throw your weapon, and within the first few frames of throwing, you need to de-equip your weapon, and that helps to, well, that just straight out negates the damage that you take. It's rather precise, and recently I've been failing it a lot, but you can, again, I personally beat count it with the Super Mario 64 music. This will be a common theme in this speedrun. I count like 90% of it with Super Mario 64. But yeah, this was the first glitch of the run, fall damage cancelling. And actually, that is not true, because we already used the glitch that I have not explained. You will see it right now. Before I talk about that though, one little disclaimer. You can see me doing a very weird movement here. I take my axe and swing to the left right now. Why I do that is, it's called swing buffering, a technique where basically you can get a 100% consistent angle because you buffer a input on the analog stick during the swing animation. It is very similar, for those who are familiar, for example, with Punch Out or SM64, to buffering punches, or to Z-buffer, to crouch buffer a long jump or something. Basically, it just gives you more consistent angles. And now the first glitch that I wanted to explain is right here. You can see we kind of run infinitely long without the stamina bar running out. This is called whistle running or whistle sprinting. And you can achieve that even as a casual player very, very easily. And I highly recommend it, actually, if you play this game casually and you like it. It is very simple to perform. All you have to do is hold the whistle button to call Epona and then mash the run button. And just like this, you can run infinitely without losing stamina. This also has some implications to speed. It is like around 80% of the speed of a real sprint. That's why we alternate always between like a tiny bit of a real sprint until the stamina wheel goes down, and then a whistle sprint to refill it. Now, we enter the first shrine. I haven't talked about what a shrine is yet, and what the goal of the speedrun is at all. So let me do that right now. This is the Bomb Shrine, and there are 4 shrines in total, which make up the Great Plateau, which is also a category in Breath of the Wild, speedrunning, especially blindfolded, a very popular category. The Great Plateau basically describes the first tutorial section of the game. In every one of these 4 shrines, you learn a new ability and you have to do a little tiny dungeon or like a puzzle based off of these abilities here. So for example here we get the bomb ability, which lets us spawn both cubic and round bombs from the air and throw it and explode them. You can see this right now here. I use the bomb, throw it, and explode these big rocks, for example. Basically, the any percent route consists of finishing the Great Plateau, which means finishing all the 4 shrines, and then picking up the glider, because the glider is one of the key items of this game. It allows you to fly like through the map, and it's the item that everyone loves in their casual playthrough. And the second goal of any percent is, of course, to get to the credits, to defeat the end boss, and to go to Ganon's castle and defeat Ganon. And it will happen much quicker than you think after we get the glider, actually. But let's us first focus here on the Great Plateau. You can see the bomb shrines are very good for blindfolded speedruns, in my opinion, because they are kind of enclosed rooms and closed spaces where you cannot really get lost a lot. There are, in most of the cases, walls where you can normalize on, or like ladders that you can hear and then use to orient yourself. And they are rather short, so you can always kind of... It's a very... I highly recommend for anyone who wants to kind of try something blindfolded, but it's like too intimidated by a whole speedrun. Just go, for example, to the bomb shrine and try to make a route for it and beat it blindfolded for yourself. It's a very, very rewarding and fun thing to do, in my opinion. So, this was already the bomb shrine. The next one we go to is Stasis, the ability to freeze time. But until then we have one big task, which is a route difference between me and Sava right now, is the Amiibo farm. So, I will have lots of time to explain this. So first of all, here you saw me do a cutscene skip. Like, you can just skip cutscenes by pressing X, but this particular cutscene at the end of every shrine, we skip a bit later than usually. Like, the skip prompt is already there, but we skip it around like 3 or 4 seconds after the skip prompt comes. That is because, actually, if you skip this cutscene later, like if you on purpose are slow, the load time for the next loading will be faster. Which is quite funny in my opinion, because in the speedrun usually you always want to mash as fast as possible, get the cutscene to skip, etc. But here it's actually faster if you wait a tiny bit and just take your time. So here we get a bit more story from the old man, but let me explain what is coming up. This will be a rather long segment of obtaining lots of items very quickly, because for any percent we need quite a lot of resources, because we are severely under-equipped and to fight Ganon and all. So what we do is we use the Amiibo functionality. Amiibos in Breath of the Wild give both food and resources for making food. As you can see, dropping down from the sky, mushrooms in this case. They drop arrows, with which we are able to fight, as well as they drop these chests. Now in the chests, it depends what Amiibo you use, what the contents of the chest can be. In my case, I used the Majora's Mask Amiibo because it contains a rare set of equipment that gives an attack boost, which we will need for the end fight. So what I do right now is basically a big RNG section where I spam and farm Amiibos for as long as I get all 3 pieces of the set. Now the chances to get a single piece are like not extremely low, but quite low. I would say around like 8% per chest, or like 10% per chest. Actually, it should be a bit higher. It should be like 15 to 20%. I'm not sure. In average, I get all 3 pieces within like 15 Amiibos, I would say, just like generally. So what I do now is just spawn these chests, hope that the items that I need are inside, and collect, while doing it, lots of mushrooms, which will act as healing items. There you can see I got one of the items, the trousers of the Fierce Deity set. And this will go on now for a while. If I remember correctly, this run had pretty bad RNG, so I will be here for quite a bit. And for example, in a marathon setting, this would be a awesome time to read some donations. This would be a little downtime before it gets, as I said, slowly but surely more and more action-packed, more and more like crazy by the minute. So this is a kind of nice little break in between. There are quite a few things that I still can explain in this time though. First of all, you might ask, if you played this game casually, how do you spawn so many amiibos from Majora's Mask, Link? Like many people think, and they think so in the right sense, that you can only scan one amiibo per day of the same kind. So, for example, if you have a Majora's Mask amiibo, you can only scan that amiibo once. There are some ways to bypass that. For example, if you turn your system clock every single time 24 hours to the front, but for the speedrun, that's too slow for us. What we do is a even bigger glitch, I would say, and it's actually an IRL glitch, a glitch in real life, because what we can do, if we have a amiibo, for example, the Majora's Mask amiibo, basically the amiibo, an amiibo is nothing else than an NFC chip. NFC chips, for those who don't know, are tiny pieces of technology that you can see everywhere. For example, when you pay with your card, wireless payment, that is done by NFC chips. If you have a garage, a car key that opens every time, that opens the door automatically when you get close, that is done by NFC, for example. And the same technology is in amiibos. Like if you touch the amiibo to the Switch, it has an NFC reader and it takes the data from the amiibo into the game and, for example, in this case, spawns items. Now, because the technology is, as I would say, like just a simple NFC chip, it is rather easy to make copies of your own amiibos. You can buy a big bunch of NFC chips that are blank. This is totally legal and everything, by the way. This is nothing like, these are just NFC chips that you can program yourself in everyday life. Many people do that for own convenience. And what you can do is get the data from your amiibo that you have bought, the Majora's Mask amiibo, and just copy it to blank NFC chips, which are pretty cheap obtainable. So what I personally have is, for example, a collection of like 30 Majora's Mask amiibos. And because the developers did not think that who in their right mind would buy multiple copies of the same amiibo, well, they did not think about speedrunners apparently, because the 24-hour limit for the amiibo is only locked for real NFC chips. That means if you have 2 amiibos of Majora's Mask Link, then you are able to copy both of them once per day. And since we have 30 copies of it, we can scan all 30 of them in one day. And just like this, we can basically spawn and spam these amiibos, get lots of resources, and finally get all the things we need for the speedrun. Now, there's lots of things that we actually need from here besides the armor too. As you can see, I'm spawning lots of mushrooms. There are a few mushrooms that are particularly important for the speedrun. They are mostly stamella mushrooms, which give you a boost in stamina. There are zap shrooms, which give you a electricity resistancy, which we will cook later too. And there are the most important type for my personal route, which are iron shrooms, which give you a defense buff. Now, it gets really complicated because some of these mushrooms have higher drop chances than others, and you kind of need to do like a probabilistic analysis to like get the kind of average amounts of how many mushrooms you will have after X amiibos. But honestly, it's much simpler than that. You basically just get all the mushrooms and hope that at the end you have enough. So what other than that, it's very important that this chest can contain these weapons that you saw now. It's a two-handed broadsword, as well as, for example, here, thunder arrows. There are 4 kind of arrows that you can get from these chests, which are fire, ice, electricity, and bomb arrows. And they have all the same equal chance to drop. We want preferably bomb arrows because they do the most damage and are the most useful. in the Ganon end fight, because the more bomb arrows we have, the faster we get the end boss down, basically. The second best, there is the second piece of the armor, by the way. It took a very long time, as you can see. Like, compared to my gold, I'm already losing time, and I only still have 2 armor pieces, which is very bad, very, very bad luck. But that shows at least that, well, even if you spend 1 or 2 minutes here, that's the good thing, especially for marathons, I think, because there is the third piece finally. We instantly equip all of them. It's the interesting thing, because the longer you sit here and basically the worse RNG you get, of course, the slower the time will be for your personal best, but the more resources you will have for the end fight, which will make the whole ending much more safe. So it's kind of a trade-off between safety and speed here. If you would want to be really safe, you can continue getting mushrooms for as long as you want, and basically you will not be able to die. Now, what I do here is there's a very, very big and interesting part about menu management and inventory management in Blindfolded Breath of the Wild, which I personally find very fascinating. But first of all, I spawn some more meat. As you can see, I have also the Ocarina of Time amiibo, which spawns these, I think it's called raw beast meat or something, at least translated from Japanese. And these meats I just spawn for healing and health purposes, because they do a full heart of health versus a half heart of health that usual mushrooms give. So just a bit more safety here. I use very, very safe strats for my route. There are much more difficult and riskier strats that you can perform with less food, especially with less food. But I personally want to kind of be safe with my runs, so I kind of take my time here a bit. Mostly in this case because the RNG was bad, but yeah. Then, as you can see in the horizon after we climbed this mountain, you will be able to see the next chamber, actually, the next dungeon there on this mountain, which is the Stasis Shrine. Now, Stasis Shrine is, I think, one of the hardest movement parts of the run, because first we set up here right in front of us. I don't know if you can already make it out, but there is a hut, and before we go to the Stasis Shrine, we actually need to cook. So let me talk a tiny bit about inventory management. Breath of the Wild has a very, how to say, actually very convenient menu for blindfolded, because every single item in this game has a given ID, and you can sort your inventory. For example, I have all these mushrooms in my inventory now, and they are unsorted, but you can press the Y button, as I do right now. You can press the Y button, and then it sorts your inventory based on the item ID. And if I know that I have only mushrooms in my inventory, I can basically deduct by how many mushrooms I have in my inventory and the position of the ID of the shrooms that I need. I can deduct exactly which shroom is where in the inventory. And another function is this one. I picked up now a Stamella shroom from the ground, which puts my cursor automatically on the Stamella shrooms. So I can now tap, for example, 3 times to the left and know, aha, okay, there are 3 mushrooms to the left of this. That means my Stamella shrooms are in position number 4, which then again means that I got 2 rare mushrooms from the amiibos, and then I know, based off that, where every other shroom in my inventory is. So you can basically really, with some like simple algorithms, deduct exactly how your inventory looks, even though you are blindfolded, which is pretty awesome, I think. Now, what we do right now is get more Stamella shrooms, because in this route, we use Stamella skewers. We cook those shrooms and make Stamella skewers, which increase our stamina, which we need for the ending to climb a very high hill. There is a different route literally made yesterday, I think, by Saver. He found a new setup for a wind bomb, which skips all this cooking and the collecting of these Stamella shrooms here, which I will probably also adopt very soon into my runs. It's just a very new setup that I have not practiced enough yet. And that would save another like 5 to 10 minutes, which is very cool find. I'll talk a bit about that later when we actually get there, but long story short, you can use a glitch called Wind Bomb, which launches you very high into the air to skip climbing a big mountain at the end. You basically just boost yourself up there. So here we do a very, very particular setup to get to this fireplace. And now we take a little break and cook some food. Now I picked up 2 hot chilies in the house, which we will need for actually the Great Plateau. This is also done in the Great Plateau run, this cooking, because it gives us cold resistancy. And we will need to cross a very cold field very soon. And we have 5 minutes of cold resistancy with this food, so we don't take damage when we do that. Now I make this cold resistance food, and now, as I said earlier, I exactly know where my stamella shrooms are based on this simple algorithm. And you can see here the skewers that I'm making, and I need 9 of those. So every single time what we do is cook the food, open the menu, go to the position of the stamella shrooms, take it in your hand, put it into the pot, cook it, skip, make the skewer, open the inventory, go to the position, take it in your hand, cook it, and we just do this 9 times. It's a lot of skewers that we need, but if you don't do the new glitch that was found, then it is absolutely necessary, and you will see why at the rather end of the run. Let me quickly take a tiny sip of my water. Everyone enjoy the cooking. It's a good time for donations in, for example, a marathon setting right here. And that will be the last one. This will be shroom number 9. Okay, and now that the cooking is done, we have everything prepared. I still do one more food, which is the Zap shrooms, which is the Stamella ID plus 3. So we always know, when we know the position of Stamella shrooms, we can always go 3 spaces further into the inventory, and there are the Zap shrooms. This particular electro-resistant food we will need for the Blight fight before the last boss, because there is one particular boss called Thunder Blight, the Ganon form Thunder, basically, and it does thunder attacks, and with this food we are basically invincible for that. Now, we are approaching the hardest part of the entire run, honestly. I think every blindfolded Breath of the Wild runner can agree. The Tree of Doom. You see this tree right in front of me, or rather this pit in front of me. We need to cross that. And how we do this is we need to cut the tree and walk over the trunk across this gap. This is what you should also do in the visual casual playthrough, at least. Now, this is so scary and random, because this tree falls to so random directions when you cut it. And there is barely a single run where this works first try. As you can see here, I get stuck on the side of the tree for no reason. This is a common theme in Breath of the Wild. There is lots of very weird things happening all the time. You can see my character just turned around for some reason now. Now we come to weird things happening in blindfolded speedruns that mess you up 100%. So because of this weird glitch there, I'm a bit too far to the right here, and I actually will not be able to climb properly up here. I need to climb exactly up here, but I slid down. Very unfortunate. I need to wait for my stamina to recover and then retry, but I didn't recover enough, and I got a stone against my head by the enemies, so I have to redo this section, unfortunately. Very, very unlucky there. But that's a good point to start talking about the save system, maybe. Breath of the Wild features automatic saves as well as manual saves. There are, I think, a total of like 6 to 8 slots, or like 5 to 6, 7 slots, where automatic saves can just go in. And the problem is they are super random. The game will just save at the most random times, and basically autosaves are bad for blindfolded speedrunning. That much I can tell you. Manual saves, on the other hand, are very useful, but also very weird and broken sometimes. So I saved in a very specific position in front of the tree because I know if I reload my save there, I will actually end up again in front of this tree. There are like collision issues or something that when you save in like certain places, it will put you somewhere completely different than where you saved when you reload, which of course for blindfolded is horrible. So you need to know exactly where you save in order to make it consistent for yourself. The other problem is, as I said, autosaves are happening all the time randomly, and they push the position of your manual save down in the list. So it can get very tricky sometimes to actually find your save that you want to select and not just like a random autosave. You can see me here climbing this mountain. It's a very precise setup that you need to do every time. Link can climb up to 4 times, or like jump up to 4 times with these jump climbs. You can also climb slower. You can, if you do it slower, you can climb a bit higher, but well, slower. So what we do here is use just these normalized jumps to get up. And with that, we already have also reached the Stasis Shrine. A few more jumps here and then activate the pedestal and we are at the shrine. The Stasis Shrine is very interesting too, in my opinion. It's, I think, my favorite shrine because it involves a very cool cycle that we need to catch. You can see right here in front of us there is, okay, you cannot really see it, but there is basically a big machinery that is like acting as a bridge, and this bridge is rotating, and the ability that we learn in this shrine is stopping time for objects. So the goal is to stop this bridge exactly when it's horizontal so you can walk across it. Now, how do you tell that the bridge is horizontal when you are blindfolded? The answer is we do exactly the same sequence of inputs as soon as we enter the shrine every single time. So the bridge is on a global timer here. You can see I do some like weird jumps in the air. And if I do exactly this sequence of inputs, the bridge will always perfectly be at the same time in this place when I stasis it, which is really cool, I think. There are also backups, like if you, for example, save and reload in the shrine, you always start again from the shrine entry, which is nice. But then you need to take care of a different cycle again. Here is the first time use of a feature called scope cancelling. I will talk about this in lengths later on. First of all, here I did a tiny mistake. I ran a tiny bit too high up, as you can see. I should have gone left into this path, but then I got hit by the boulder and survived with 0.25 hearts. I was about to save and reload when I kind of thought maybe I can back this up. If you know my streams, I like to back things up. And I did it actually. So I actually refound myself. Camera management in this game is also very tricky because as soon as you get hit, your camera kind of gets wanky. So what you can do is like either throw weapon throw cancel or scope cancel, and that recenters your camera. And yeah, it gets very complicated with the camera, honestly. I don't think it is much explanation needed. I can talk a tiny bit about it. So basically, this game has 2 different camera types, both a static and a dynamic camera. When you usually just play, the camera is dynamic. That means if you press to the left on your controller, the camera will slowly follow you to the left and kind of turn behind Link's back. So if you, for example, face a tree and then hold left, the tree will not be straight in front of you anymore, but like to the upright. You can negate this dynamic, because dynamic cameras are very bad for blindfolded. You can make it static by tapping the C stick, which is the camera stick. So by tapping, for example, vertically down for just like 1 second, you can make the camera static. That means that if you hold left, the tree will remain in front of you and just the character moves left. You can see this all the time, basically, in the next section when I run with the static camera through this cold field here. Now, this is a very, very interesting part again. This is the longest beat count that I perform in like any blindfolded run of mine. I think it's very, very cool in my opinion. We need to eat the cold food, the cold resistant food here. I need to find it in my inventory quickly. And this beat count involves like, I don't know, 150 beats or something. And yeah, it's just a long count in my head with precise movement. So for example, here you can see I walk up left, but the camera stays straight behind me. That's what I mean with static camera. You can move to the right, to the left, and the camera stays in the same place behind you. That is not the case usually. And you achieve this by tapping quickly on the stick. The problem with Breath of the Wild is as soon as you, for example, get hit, or as soon as you climb somewhere or like open a chest, etc., this static camera gets cancelled again and it turns dynamic. So you need to kind of be aware of when to use what camera options. Anyways, we move through this icy mountains here, and you will very soon see the next shrine coming up, which is Cryonis. Here it comes a very tricky section like that I've come up with in the past, which is a shield surf, which should make this whole section here much faster. Basically, from like exactly right here, you should use your shield to shield surf. And as you can see right here, I paused in a very unfortunate timing, and Link got turned around for apparently no reason, did like a weird backflip, and then shield surfed into nothing, into the pit of doom. Very unlucky. Honestly, this was like, if I would have just held up 1 second longer, everything would have worked perfectly fine, but I just started the shield surf on like a sloped surface, which turned Link around. Again, blindfolded Breath of the Wild, there is so much that can go wrong because it's such a dynamic and like 3D-ish game. I don't know how to explain it. Interactive maybe is a good word. But yeah, for blindfolded it's not so good because there are lots of things that can go wrong, unfortunately. But yeah, what is good about this is that I can show off more backups. Everything that you fail, you can basically also back up in this game, which is nice. In this case, the simplest form of backup, reload a save. I made a save here in a position that I know is safe to save at, and we're gonna repeat this entire thing again, which loses like 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, but at least it is a consistent way to finish a run instead of resetting for a tiny mistake, like in other blindfolded runs that I've done in the past. There are many runs that are just like unsavable and backups are not really possible, but Breath of the Wild is actually pretty fair in backups, I would say. Similar to Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is also similar. Like, you can back up things very easily, or like not very easily, but you have the ability to back up things, but it won't work every time, and it's very similar with Breath of the Wild, in my opinion. Now, while we make across this cold land here again, I want to talk a bit about DLC and Amiibo usage, because back in the days, or like the first few runs, or like the history of Breath of the Wild, if you want. So Crystal Saver, very talented blindfolded speedrunner and community moderator of the blindfolded speedrunning community, together with Mikatoon, Persian Player, and Bonk. Saver was the first person in the world to beat any percent and routed everything himself with the bunny hop route. Then came Mariana, as I said, the Japanese player, and now I also entered the race, if you want. And yeah, since the beginning of time, the blindfolded speedruns use DLC. Now, I know many people are maybe thinking that both DLCs and Amiibos are like kind of a pay-to-win kind of deal, but honestly, I personally rather think of them as like a help for the speedrun to get faster, because as simple as it is, like, it will make the speedrun faster if you just use DLC. Right here, you can see why. If you have the DLC activated, there's this chest here, and there are 5 bomb arrows. Now, this will not make or break the run, but it will make the end boss much easier and faster. So, unfortunately, if you want to get like a good time and make your life easier in blindfolded, which you definitely want, blindfolded is hard enough to just complete, it is highly recommended to use DLC as well as Amiibos. Amiibos first the other runners besides me were very skeptical about Amiibos. I was the first one to use them. Everyone was very skeptical because it isn't like kind of cheating if you have like infinite food, and I think it's just a very different playstyle because of course you can run around through the world and get this food like by normal means, and I also totally understand that it is probably much cooler this way, but yeah, if you want to get speed, then you can also just use like 4 amiibos, get meat, and then you are done, and you don't need to spend 20 minutes collecting food, you know. As well as I always consider marathon safety. So in a marathon, it is just much more pleasant for the viewer to know that this run is consistent and can finish, rather than, okay, we spent 20 minutes searching this like few resources that we have, and then we still need to kind of pray that we have enough health and food, versus we just get lots of resources on demand basically. And I my personal opinion about this is really, I don't know, I don't like it too much to use amiibos myself, but as a speedrunner and as the speedrun, I am like, whatever, it is in the game. If I want to do any percent speedrun with every major glitch, etc., anyways, then I will use whatever resources I have available, especially in blindfolded, where it's hard enough to just get by. Now, bit of a sidetrack there, but we are in Cryonis Shrine, which gives us the ability to spawn ice blocks from water, as you can see here. And Cryonis Shrine is, I think, the fastest shrine of all of them. Unfortunately, I know what's about to happen, which is I failed this twice. Spoiler alert. Right here, this is the, oh my god. This is extremely, extremely unfortunate. So what happened there is, if you hold Z and walk across, if you hold Z and walk against tiny walls, like for example this pedestal there, you are not able to climb that up. Like Link will just stop in place, and I personally use that as a setup to like initiate a backflip, side hop, and then like use a Cryonis to lift the bridge. But as you could see, is I took my shield out in like exactly the moment I stand before this ledge, and that caused me to go on top of it, which I didn't hear. And if I again would have done it half a second earlier, half a second later, no problem. But I just hit the exactly, it was like a frame perfect mistake, literally. Like, it is so stupid that this happened. And unfortunately, these mistakes in Breath of the Wild always cause lots of time losses. Like, same as here, I did accidentally one hop into the wrong direction, and because of that I will not stop at the wall again and get confused. But I hear instantly that he doesn't stop, something is wrong. So yeah, Breath of the Wild is a very difficult game. There are always many things that can go wrong, but at least it's very repeatable, so it's very safe to, like, you lose time. As a speedrun for personal best and world record hunts, it is very difficult. If you search for a game where you just want a completion or something, I think it's pretty nice, actually. It's much nicer than other games where you game over and have to redo like whole sections or something, or like even softlock if you game over, or I don't know. Like if I compare it, for example, with Ocarina of Time. That one I don't get. There was no shield. Sorry, I had to take a little sip of water. If I, for example, compare this game with Ocarina of Time, it's so much nicer. Because in Ocarina of Time, if you make a mistake, for example, let's say after the fishing pond, there is literally no way to back it up anymore, because you don't have enough money, you cannot redo the fishing pond because literally you don't have enough money, and how the fastest way to get money back is literally to reset and redo the entire beginning. It's faster than to get rupees individually. Versus this game, where you make a mistake, you lose a minute maybe or two, but you can always save and reload, and you can just redo this section here in the shrine, which is very nice and convenient. So in this sense, I really appreciate the game, actually. There are much worse things. It's a bit unforgiving at the very end, as you will see, because the end boss system is built like this, that you basically the end boss consists of like 10 to 12 phases, and you need to defeat them back to back to back to back to back. And if you die at phase number 10, you need to start again at the very, very beginning at phase number 1. So the very ending is like the major time loss probably that you can get in this run. I think like a iteration of the end boss fights are like 10 to 15 minutes always, rather like 10 minutes. So it's important to account this into the run too. I think my old PB had a second try boss fight, which is why it is like so low. But anyways, as you could see here, what we do is warp through the map. This is the first usage of quick warping. You can warp to all the shrines you've visited and the towers that you visited, and we have of course done this tower here already. Another fall damage cancel, perfectly executed. And we go now to Magnesis, which is this shrine right here. It's actually very close to the tower. Many people do this one first in their casual playthroughs. In the speedrun, we do this last simply because the Magnesis ability is not very useful for us in the beginning. So I think like in every normal speedrun, either you get Stasis first or the bombs, because you can use them for like glitches, etc. Versus Magnesis is kind of like, yeah. To get to Magnesis, we have to cross this little lake. It's a tiny movement section, pretty calm. I think in general, the overworld movement is like much calmer than like the dungeon areas, where it's always super action-packed and stuff. The overworld movement is rather like a nice little tiny break for your head. Especially in Blindfolded, it gets really exhausting to think so much. And it's nice to just have like 1 minute of doing some simple movement sometimes. But this calmness cannot last forever, and we enter Magnesis right now. For those who don't know, Magnesis is the power to, well, as the name suggests, it's the power of a magnet. Basically, you can lift metal objects, push them away from you, get them closer to you, etc. Basically manipulate metal objects in the air via a big magnet. And in Blindfolded, we actually will use this ability quite a lot from now on. Especially, we will need this ability in the very last Ganon fight, which is quite funny. And yeah, Magnesis Shrine is super cool to see, I think. I forgot to mention that all these shrines have multiple ways of solving them. Not really in the casual playthrough sense, but in terms of glitches. For example, in the Cryonis shrine that we saw earlier, you can perform from the very beginning a wind bomb, which is like you basically damage boost yourself through the air, and you can skip the entire sequence, the entire shrine actually. For Blindfolded, it is possible. I've done it Blindfolded before the Cryonis wind bomb. It looks really cool. It is very visually impressive, I would say. But just doing it the normal way is actually faster than doing the whole setup and then renormalizing and finding yourself again. So the same here in Magnesis. There is a wind bomb setup that you can use to get over this wall here and fly all the way to the end, which is done in the visual speedrun. But in Blindfolded, it's just faster to use the normal way. It's a common theme in Blindfolded speedrunning that sometimes the casual intended path is actually the better one. So what you can see here now is another glitch called a shield jump. Like we jump, use the shield to initiate a surf animation and then cancel it with taking off the shield. And that allows us to cross this gap basically for free. Now here, very interesting, this is a metal door, and in a casual playthrough you are supposed to use Magnesis, of course, because this is the Magnesis shrine. But the physics in Breath of the Wild are very liberal, I would say. So you can also just stasis them, punch the door a few times to store energy, and then release the stasis to burst the door open, which for blindfolded is more consistent. So we use that. And now the final goal, we are basically done with the Great Plateau. We just need to pick up our glider now, and then we go straight to Ganon's castle, actually. The glider is located in the Temple of Time, which is located in the middle of all 4 shrines, I think. Like exactly in the middle if you make like a map. But basically it's very close to the bomb shrine and the tower. You will see it right here. I think he will point towards the old man. And we gonna warp to the bomb shrine now. And I will quickly take a tiny break to drink some water. I would advise you to do so too if you have watched all the time with me now. Very important to hydrate always and stretch your legs a bit. So little donation break for marathons, for example. Use it as you please. I will quickly take some water. Not Stasis. But Stasis should be much further away. This was probably again the death, which would not make sense because the death should be above. I don't know what this is, honestly. Let's hope it's a bomb. So, we are back in the bomb shrine, and you will see we will make a very straight setup, and it's a nice little... I really like this section. It feels so calm. It feels like the calm before the storm. As you can see, right in front of us is this old church. That's the Temple of Time. And we literally align ourselves like this, that we just literally hold up here, and we reach basically the exact location where we need to go. So it's again, like here we do one more jump, and then from here on it's just hold up until you reach a wall. So very, very calm section. You just run forward. I really appreciate this section because after this, we go straight to the craziest part of the run, I think. And it's the kind of funny thing with how this game is designed, because this tutorial section here you cannot escape. Everyone who plays this game has to do the 4 shrines, get all the abilities, and basically then the world opens up. You gain the access to the open world. You can go to the villages, do quests. You can go to the divine beasts, do them in whichever order you want. It basically becomes an open world game. And what that also means is that in the speedrun, we can kind of go directly to the end boss. Of course, we are like severely under-equipped. We have like, what? We have literally one weapon, which is the Woodfeller's axe, and like an iron hammer. Like, we have 0 equipment. The developers never thought about that people will like try to challenge Ganon with like such equipment here. But hey, we are speedrunners, and that's kind of what we love to do, to sequence break, do things out of order. And it's a golden opportunity for speedrunners, and that's exactly what we're going to use also in the blindfolded speedrun here. We obtain here the glider. While this happens, I quickly also want to explain 2 route differences that happen right now between me and Saver, because we have worked out... As I said, right now the routing is like very complicated because we have like multiple ideas, and there's definitely some like preference to one or the other. But right here, first of all, very important item, we grab a bow from this chest. This bow will allow for many glitches. Both the wind bomb that I mentioned earlier, you need a bow, and in Saver's route, and especially as I said with the new wind bomb castle where you skip the Stamella shrooms, you will need that bow. But to be fair, you will also get another bow later on. Here I just jump down into the chapel to get some arrows and then warp back to the tower, because... And now I need to explain this. Because this is a fairly new glitch that was found, I think, like 1 or 2 years ago, and it changed the entire speedrun, visually and blindfolded, entirely. A new glitch was found called bow lift smuggling something. I don't know what the acronym actually stands for. But it is incredibly cool to see. You will see, I will set it up right here. So it looks like literally an old school cheat right here. So we position ourselves, I drop a square bomb on the floor, put out my shield, and then perform some inputs to grab the bomb while my bow is out. Okay, so far so good. Then I jump and drop the bomb, and during the jump I de-equip my shield, and now I'm shooting the bomb somehow. What? Excuse me. And then I hold up, I count, and what is gonna happen, huh? What the hell? Link is flying, dude. So this is a new glitch. As you can see, I position myself here right towards Ganon's castle, and this is a new glitch found, which literally allows you to fly through the entire map at ridiculous speeds in a horizontal line. And as you can see, it's very easy to set up, that you can even do it blindfolded. The problem is it's fairly unnormalized. As you can see here, I'm drifting a tiny bit to the left. The goal here is, in the visual speedrun, you would go with this bomb right to the castle, enter, get some weapons, and then enter the boss fight. For blindfolded, as you can see, it's unnormalized. It's kind of random where you go. So what we try to do is, we need to hit the loading zone of the castle, because there is a system in this game where as long as you are in the loading zone, you can actually open the map and warp out, because the castle is considered a dungeon, like a shrine. And this warping out of the dungeon always brings you back to the same position, which is perfect and nice. Unfortunately, because we are so fast and going so through the air, I missed this trigger right now. Like, I was just in the loading zone, as you could see. I went too far, and sometimes, like, you are usually supposed to hear music playing. Like, you can deduct where you are by multiple things. There are either enemy sounds or music sounds, or you can hit, if you have a straight line, you can hit a town discovery cutscene before the castle. Excuse me, I need to sneeze. Sorry, I had to sneeze there. So basically, I failed this here once. Usually it works always in like 1 or 2 tries. Usually first try, actually. It's not that hard. On that day I had like kind of a bit of a weird counting, I think. That's why it was a bit too far left. But yeah, blindfolded, we can literally go from the very first area, the tower, right straight to Ganon's castle, which is incredibly cool. And this is in the route that I do. The route that Saver does, which I also want to introduce a bit. Saver, first of all, does not do this whole shenanigans with the amiibos. Saver gets the armor from the DLC, actually. The DLC spawns some chests throughout Hyrule Field, which contain very, very powerful armor. It is like literally like endgame armor with like 8 defense per piece, with an attack up stat, which is like incredibly strong. So what Saver does is, he doesn't do the amiibo shenanigans, and he does also not do this BLSS right here, but instead he runs all the way from the tower to Ganon's castle on foot, and on the way he picks up these DLC armors instead of the armor that I'm using from the amiibos. It is pretty interesting because the amiibos are technically faster if you get good RNG, but the route on foot across Hyrule's Field is more consistently fast. So while both routes are like kind of very different, they, as soon as you reach the castle, kind of converge again, which is very, very interesting, and which is why this would be a great showcase maybe for a race. But yeah, I personally do the route with the BLSS. I love this trick. I really like to show it off. It's super cool. And you can see me right here. Again, I'm entering the loading zone slowly. You can see, like here, I stop mid-air. It is because the map is loading. And based on how often the map loads, you can also deduct where you are. Here, the music stops playing, so I know I deloaded the previous music. It's like very specific things that you need to watch out for. And you can see on the bottom right, the minimap loaded. And that is our cue that we can warp. So I was still a tiny bit too far left here, but it worked out pretty well. And just like this, we can normalize in front of the castle gates and enter from a normalized position, which is really, really nice. But yeah, that is the BLSS. Very, very cool glitch. Very cool glitch. Also, you might have noticed right now, actually that's quite interesting to say and very important to say, I'm changing controllers quite frequently throughout the run. That is because I have two controllers which I play with. One is the Nintendo Switch Pro controller with a custom shell that has notches like on the GameCube controller. That one I use for Amiibos and the BLSS. Because my other controller does not have Amiibo compatibility and is an third-party controller called 8BitDo, which we in the Blindfolded Speedrunning community have deemed the single best controller in the world, probably, because it has one unique feature. It has a analog pad, like a D-pad, as analog stick. So you don't have 360 degrees on your stick, but 4 buttons that go up, down, left, right, which is incredibly powerful because you get consistent up left angles, up right angles, right, left, down angles, everything. So for stuff where you need to use, like for the BLSS, you need to wiggle your stick around, like to left, right. These things you cannot really do on the 8-bit though. That's why I'm switching around quite often. But yeah, the 8-bit though, really good controller. It's a company that focuses on accessibility actually. So I highly recommend checking their products out. They have amazing controllers for reasonable and very actually affordable prices. Much cheaper than the original hardware. I'm not sponsored or anything by them. Just genuine opinion, especially for blindfolded speedrunning. If you plan to blindfolded speedrun a game, these controllers also work for PC, and I highly recommend you to try the 8-bit Lite with the analog pad as a D-pad, because it literally can make a run happen that would otherwise be impossible, and that is amazing. So what is happening right now? Let me talk about this rather. We save in a very specific position here away from the Guardian because we need to kill it. This one Guardian is kind of in the way for us. So the only way to kill Guardians really is to parry their lasers. And I mistimed it here. And the good thing again, manual save. If you game over, if you die, you respawn at the last save, which in this case is a manual save. So we can just literally retry this as much as we want. Very safe. How I personally count this counter, many people are very impressed by blindfolded counters. How I personally count this is the Guardian makes like sounds like, and after he stops doing this sound, I count 7 of these. Like he stops and then I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and at 7 I counter, and it's exactly the range that I set up, and it works usually every time, or like after 1 death or something. Now, okay, let's talk again about routes, because here what we're gonna do, there are like 3 different routes in blindfolded that can happen right now. This is, I think, the route that I use only. I think the other ones don't use this route at all, because Mariana does get a extra Thunder Sword. Saver does this part here at the very end, and I do it here in the beginning. So it's very cool to see actually that there are so many different approaches to this game, which also again kind of complements the freedom of strats and kind of the game in general, because it is about exploring and freedom and stuff. Excuse me. So what we're gonna do right here is we have to climb up. Many people don't know this, but there is a hidden chest up here. We have to climb up, but our stamina is not really reaching. That's why the stamina skewers come into play finally. If you eat a stamina skewer on empty stamina, you get the refill, and you can jump again while climbing. And you can use this to climb infinitely high. Many casual players don't know this, and it's really useful, honestly. But yeah, we go basically down here, And here we pick up 5 arrows, this bow right in front of us, which is I don't know the English names of this game, I usually play this in Japanese, but it's I think, Royal Guard bow. It's like in Japanese, it's the king's family bow. I don't know how it is. Anyways, and this chest here contains 3 ancient arrows. These ancient arrows will play a crucial role for damage later on. So what I do is I grab the arrows and jump down here towards the entrance of the castle. At this point, Mariana would go through like another path and get like different swords, and that was also Saver's old route. But as I said, we have many approaches. It's very interesting. I highly recommend checking both of them out. Both Mariana and Saver, very incredible people. Love them all. Shout out to the blindfolded speedrunners out there. But yeah, what's happening here is this is basically the entry to the castle that I use. Or that like actually everyone uses at some point, because this entry here leads to the armory, where we will get most of the weapons we will use to fight the end boss. What, like, we are only going in, we could literally go to the end boss right now, but as I said, we are severely underprepared in terms of equipment. So what we're gonna do is we take a quick sneak into the castle and get some equipment that we will need to kill the boss quickly, because the boss is a tough one to crack, really. So, very interesting approach here. What I do is I set up a certain position, because there is a enemy coming up, a lizard foss, I think they are called. This enemy right there is, I have a setup here very specific where I shoot an ancient arrow at him. You can see it right here. I set up my position, lock perfectly onto him, and then ancient arrows are the strongest arrows in the entire game, and they obliterate every enemy that gets hit. Like literally they just disappear like without any trace. But what happened right here is somehow, for some magic reason, my camera turns, which destroyed my setup and made me very, very confused. This was a recent reroute from Saver, this setup here that you can like directly shoot the arrow at the lizard. And I implemented this in my run, and this was the first time I ever used it, so I'm very confused to what went wrong. I usually had a different strat like that I used in my previous runs before, but for some reason the camera turned. I still don't know why, and it made me very confused and question where I'm actually at. And now what's happening right now is backups. So brain turns off from strategies and just backup is in your brain. The problem is I saved here. My manual save is overwritten, and I need to now somehow find out where I am. Okay, I punched to the right, I buffered to the right with the axe and ran forward, and I landed into Miasma. So what I learned from this is that the Miasma is to my right. I'm still facing kind of towards the lizard somehow. That means probably to the left would still be the stairs, etc. The problem is, as I said, I don't have much experience yet with this new setup, so I don't know any backups like from my mind. I'm just trying out different things. Here you can hear I jump left and I fall down longer than usual. That means I'm on the stairs. Like this is I'm just trying to vocalize my thought process here. So I jump left, there is a longer fall than usual. That means I'm going downstairs, and I know on the wall you can normalize with the straight angle, as right here, perfect, a straight angle, and then you get back here to the corner, and now I know I'm back where I am supposed to be, and now I'm thinking, okay, I do a backflip, and now I should usually do the setup for the arrow kill, but since that didn't work earlier, I do another backflip because maybe that will help. Maybe it was 2 backflips and I just don't remember the number, but the problem is the first setup was correct, so I backed this up here wrongly again. Very, very unfortunate, but like it can get very, very interesting, because I think for many viewers especially, these kind of backups are like what makes blindfolded speedruns so interesting. Like, it's not just that you can see where you are, but you have to like somehow deduct logically where you are and how to figure out this problem that you are facing. Again, I want to do the same thing. I want to repeat basically the same setup, but Link got randomly turned around because it's Breath of the Wild, the best coded game in history. Random turnaround for blindfolded, horrible. So I'm very lost again. I'm running against walls. I have no idea where I am. At this point, I'm kind of thinking, what should I do to fix this? Because I don't have a manual save. I don't know how to fix this. I will spend lots and lots of time here if I try this any longer. Like, I already lost much time that I could have spent otherwhere. I hear the lizard is in front of me, so my angle is probably very wrong. So what I do here, I think right now, is that I just try to find different saves that happened before from the autosave. One other option that I could do in a marathon setting, for example, is always what I did in the very beginning with the BLSS. I could always warp back in front of the castle and then repeat everything. In this case, it would already probably save time, because re-entering up to this point takes maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, but as a blindfolded speedrun, I always want to try to back up things if possible. But yeah, anyways, I reloaded my save, and I hear that I am exactly here where the chest was. I know exactly where I am again, and then I just have to redo it from here. So I backed it up after all, though it took me quite a long time, unfortunately, which lost me, I think, a total of like 5 minutes maybe. This was a very major time loss in this run. But I have to say, a fortune in the unfortunate, a very interesting time loss, at least, because yeah, backups are very cool to watch. Even now myself, as I rewatch this for the first time, actually, I have not seen this run yet. I'm live commentating this from scratch. I have not seen what's happening. So yeah, very weird mistakes happening there, and it's very cool to see the reasoning of my actions in like terms of backups. Anyways, we do the same thing here again. I haven't said this earlier, but again here, this door is not usually supposed to work with stasis, but it does, because the physics engine is pretty good in this game. So what I do now is I go back to my old strat. I scratch the strat that I implemented, and I do my old one. Because apparently I messed up something, don't know what. So I just go back to my old strat, and that one involves this movement right here. We position ourselves in this position, we save, and then we lure the lizard towards us, actually, without, like... The difference is that with the other setup, you could have just shot the lizard from basically the stationary position. What I need to do here is I charge an ancient arrow, whistle so he runs towards me, target him, wait for him to jump, and then eliminate him, and then renormalize. This whole renormalization process would have been scratched with the new strat. But it does work. My old strat does work after all, so no big worries right here, besides the tiny time loss that I took, unfortunately. Now, again, Breath of the Wild, I suddenly didn't have a... Like, my X was not out correctly, that's why my angle changed, but I heard it, so I have to renormalize here, go back to this position, and then finally we can continue. As you can see, this run has many time losses, like here and there. It's like not a perfect run by any means. It is definitely easily improvable by more than 10, 15, 20 minutes, probably, to be completely fair. But yeah, because of the amount of like tiny mistakes, it's always very difficult to get like a perfect run, of course. But let's move on. Here is a fake wall. For those who play this game casually, destroy this wall, because there is a very good item behind it. There is this chest with 3 ancient arrows, and I think there are actually only a total of like 12 ancient arrows throughout the entire game in the castle, and the rest you have to get from like random drops or something. I don't know. But these arrows are extremely powerful, really. Like, especially if you are a casual player, and you have if you know what a triple bow is, like there are bows in this game who shoot multiple arrows at once. You can literally use the triple bow with, I think, like 5 ancient arrows only and defeat Ganon with 5 shots. Like, it is so strong. Anyways, this is the armory. The armory part is where we get all the equipment that we need for the end boss. First of all, we do some setups here to get a chest behind this fake wall, which is the Fang of Nadia or something. I don't know the name. Some goddess of Breath of the Wild, I think. This Fang, what this Fang does is if you cook it with other ingredients, it strengthens the effect and guarantees a critical cooking hit. Because you can actually get crits during cooking in Breath of the Wild, for those who don't know. But as you can see, there's this moblin sleeping, and we do a very specific setup here. Lure him towards us, wait for him to come close, and then jump forwards towards this royal claymore, which I will refer to as the white claymore from now on. Because you will see in 1 second we will also get a black claymore, and it's easy to distinguish them because of their color. They have like very similar names, I think. Anyways, what we do here is we save in a very specific position and reload the save file. What that does is it resets the enemy's position right in behind us, which allows us for a sneak attack, which kills the enemy in 1 hit with the newly obtained weapon. And that allows us to obtain the weapon that the enemy held, which is a super cool setup. And as you can see, like, our axe has a damage of 3 and the hammer of 12, and these claymores have like 50 and 72, so these are very powerful weapons. I mean, it is understandable because this is the last area of the game. This is literally like end game, and this is exactly the purpose of the castle tour. We just sneak into the castle with like super under-equipped, grab the most powerful weapons, and then go defeat Ganon with them. That's the whole speedrun, what it's about. Here, we grab another bow. This is the Falcon bow, one of the fastest bows in the game, I think. And another chest, which contains more bomb arrows, a 5-pack actually. And then there are 2 more things we pick up in the armory for the fight. The next one that we pick up is actually a mushroom that we already have quite often, which is the iron shroom, which I said earlier is very important. This chest always drops one, and same concept as the stamella. If I pick it up and press start, I can check the position of the mushroom, so I can like deduct now, okay, it is row number 2, item number 5. I check where the position is, and I need a minimum of 2 iron shrooms, or like 3 iron shrooms after picking this one up, because that will guarantee me to make a recipe, a food that gives me a defense boost for the very last boss, so it cannot one-hit shot me. Otherwise, the last boss has attacks that literally just kill you in 1 hit, and it can happen randomly. But this guarantees like safety. This is very safe if you use this buff. And yeah, furthermore, I grabbed the chest behind this mushroom, which contains the Lionel shield, I think, which is like one of the strongest shields in the game. And we can, by default, we can only carry 4 shields, and it does not really matter how strong the shields are for the blindfolded speedrun, honestly, because we mostly use them, as you will see later, to parry lasers. And simply speaking, no matter how strong your shield is, if you mistime it, your shield will just explode and break. So the durability is not really an issue, but we just pick it up because it's right on the route, and it gives us 1 more chance to parry because it's 1 more shield that we have in our inventory. This route plays out very well in that we have exactly 4 shields at the end. What we do now is the iron shroom that I picked up earlier and counted, we will now cook it. There is conveniently a fireplace right here, and it's not lit, but we can do a very clever setup with an arrow and the bow. We place our camera in a very specific position, hold the bow out, and then jump into the flame, light our arrow with fire, and then jump towards the cooking pot. with this camera, and it activates the flame underneath, which is super cool. So now I go to the position that I calculated for the iron shroom, which is second row, 5th item. Boom, there we go. Take all the iron shrooms into the hand, and then select the Fang, which is the last item we collected, so it's always the last item in our inventory. So we just need to like backtrack from the very end. And this gives us a +3 armor for 13 minutes, which is very long, which is enough time to beat the boss. So with that in our inventory, we continue through the castle. There's one more little section that we need to pick up, and then we go to the end boss. Here, actually, a tiny sequence break. You can shoot a precise bomb arrow through these miasmas. And actually, maybe a good time to explain scope cancelling. As you can see, if you have the bow out and do scope cancels, you can actually have a normalized way of getting vertical aim with the bow. And that will become very important at the very, very, very last phase of the very last boss. More to that later, though. First, we do some, at this point, I'm doing mostly side hops through the castle because the walls are so close to each other that you cannot really do counted beat counts anymore. And just jumping from A to B is faster than trying to renormalize after a beat count. So all of this here is basically bunny hopped and routed out. What we will grab right now is the last 3 items that we get before the boss. It is, first of all, a Knight's short sword, I think it's called. 26 attack. It's a very weak sword, actually. Then one more chest with 3 ancient arrows, and then this shield right in front of us, which is a knight's shield. Again, doesn't really matter in terms of durability, but it gives us another shield for the laser parry, which is nice. Then we do some little setup here. We go towards this wall and continue our way bunny hopping through the castle. We now are on the way to actually Ganon, to the end boss. We have everything that we need, all the weapons, all the arrows, and we have everything that we need to beat now the 100 billion phases of the end boss. And I'm not exaggerating. Nintendo, I don't know what they thought while developing this game, but they really went ham on it. Like Dark Souls, the final boss, it evolves into a second form. Oh no, it has this hidden third form with full health again. Dude, it has nothing against Breath of the Wild. I am not lying when I say this boss has more than 10 phases, I think, and every time you have to back kill every phase, otherwise you need to reset everything. So the end boss is really, really action-packed, and it's not only the scariest part, it's the most difficult part, it's the most action-packed part, it's the last part of the game. It's very stressful. It's just like basically everything you do in this blindfolded speedrun is like in preparation for this end boss. And then this like epic showdown at the very end of the speedrun drops. And in a sense, it's really, really cool to showcase, because I think especially as a viewer who hasn't seen much of Breath of the Wild, and who maybe you don't even need to have played casually, but these boss fights look impressive, I can tell you. This is probably one of the most impressive things visually to look at in like many blindfolded speedruns that I've done in the past, and I have done many, you can trust me. But looking at these fights as a like spectator is like something else. I would pay for that to see something live like this. So before I go crazy about the end boss, though, there is one last thing we need to do. Remember the big cooking section of the stamella skewers that I did earlier in the run? Well, now we will use them actually. I'm setting myself up here in a very particular position towards this wall in front of me. And this is a very, very high wall. And we will climb it. We will climb it. You can trust me that we will. With the power of 8 remaining stamella skewers, we will use all of our stamina right here, every single time, eat at the very last moment a skewer to refill a tiny bit of our stamina, then climb a tiny bit for like 4.5 seconds, around so that our stamina gets critical, which means red. You can see climbing, climbing, red stamina, jump. Now, if you jump in the critical part of the stamina when it's red, you gain a bit more distance. So if I jump too early while it's still green, I will not have enough stamina skewers to make it to the very top because this is a high wall. So you can see me jumping on these skewers, climbing up, jumping at the very last bit. It's very tight. If you miss a single one, you are dead because you fall from so high. But thankfully you can save down there and just repeat and retry. But you can see climbing, 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 critical jump, and eating, and climbing, climbing, climbing. It's a very, very long wall, but it's very cool that it works. Like, and we have just enough shrooms, as you can see, just enough skewers to make it for the very last jump here. And right there is the entrance to the final end boss. We've made it. We skipped like the entire Ganon's castle with this big climb. Of course, this is a big dungeon usually, but this is just a enormously huge sequence break. Really, really cool. Okay, before we start the end boss fight, I need to tell you about one thing, which is another glitch that we perform called Wind Blight Skip. So I told you that this boss has like 1 billion phases, right? There is a like frame perfect, pixel perfect, position perfect skip that you can do to skip the first 2 phases of the boss. Which you can see right here. I'm positioning myself in a super particular meta and making this very, very crazy setup here with like buffers and Magnesis jumps, which I haven't even explained, but it gives you a tiny bit of an angle. And then you do like shield punches to gain like a tiny bit of distance. And then you take the bow, do 3 scope cancels. First of all, equip all the weapons that you need for the fight, because we are like, as soon as we are right in front of the loading zone for the last boss. One last safety save. This is the last save of the run. If we die anywhere from now on, we will restart from right here until the final boss is dead. So I will do 3 scope cancels. Boom, boom, boom. Number 3. Pause buffer, hold up, and we are in. Now, what the hell did I just do? You can see the cutscene starts playing for Wind Blight phase number 1, which is the first phase of Ganon. And you can see his head is kind of behaving weirdly. Like, his head is kind of like, you see, he's like twitching around. This is because the arrow that we shot is during the cutscene inside the hitbox of his head, which means it constantly does damage. And with this, you can skip the first 2 phases, because as you can see, this is the second phase of Ganon, and look at the HP bar. He has like 1 HP left. It's kind of a bit random, but you can kill both of the phases in like 1 hit. Sometimes he survives with like 1 HP, sometimes a bit more. But as you can see, these were the first 2 phases. Windblight phase number 1 and Windblight phase number 2. Now after Windblight comes Waterblight phase number 1. Waterblight phase number 1 is, I think, one of the easiest. He always starts with the same attack that we can counter. Like if you dodge perfectly during an attack, you get this like slow motion trigger, and you can do like a flurry rush, it's called, where Link like charges to the enemy. Then after that, it's a sequence of, we need to do some headshots. Blights in general fall down after 2 headshots, which surprisingly work well blindfolded. I don't know why. And we need to do basically 2 headshots into running towards him and killing him with the claymore. This was phase number 1 of Waterblight. Now phase number 2 of Waterblight. Now it gets really, as you can see, fast-paced. There is so much going on. Waterblight number 2 is one of the worst in my opinion. Very random. He has, at the very beginning, 2 different kind of patterns that he can do. He can jump to the left or to the right, and you can only attack him when he goes right. And what we do is we use bomb arrows to knock him down. If he's high, like right now, he's too high, we cannot target him, and without target, we cannot locate him blindfolded. A lot of these fights are based off of echolocation, actually, because the game has amazing stereo sound, and with the bow out, we can basically hear where he will appear and where not. So we're basically just listening to the sounds of the enemy to locate them here. And then running towards them, doing some damage, and then again, you see, every time he warps away, I just like look around with the camera to like locate him via echolocation. he does multiple attacks. This attack here is like he shoots 5 blocks, which you can like conveniently dodge if you do a little circle while Z holding. Very cool that this works. And then after that, you need to like hide from him and he warps back. And this, usually you can kill him in 2 phases. I missed 1 bomb arrow at the very beginning. That's why I think this will be a 3-turn fight. Yeah, you can see he has like 1 HP left, like 1 hit probably. But we need to do another whole cycle. Now, the problem... Okay, here's the problem with any percent blindfolded. You can see we have like 3 weapons for this entire fight. Also, Blight Laser. Blight Laser kills you in 1 hit. Every time. So what we do is we detonate a bomb of ourselves into our face so we get knocked back. Because while you are knocked back, while you are in this ragdoll animation, you are invincible. So we use a bomb to blow ourselves up to get invincibility frames, because the laser is just too powerful. This is a common theme that you will see in the speedrun, and it's really, really a great technique. Many of these attacks of the Blights actually one-hit us at this point, which is not so good. Now, Fire Blight phase 1, very dependent on headshots, which we can set up very conveniently in blindfolded. While you can basically set them up while holding the camera down for a certain amount of time and targeting him and running backwards. So you can see echolocating, go to his position, locate, boom, headshot, boom, second headshot, knock him down, run towards him, use the claymore. Now, Fireblight is pretty easy. What I want to talk about is weapon durability. The biggest problem with the routing of these fights is how many hits you do to each Blight, to each phase, because we have these 3 weapons, and every weapon in Breath of the Wild breaks after a while, and we can only do so many hits until the weapon breaks and we are left with no other attack options. So it's very important to calculate like correctly what weapon you use when. Now, Fire Blight phase 2, right here you can see it. He does this big explosion attack where you need to plant a bomb on the floor. You can see it right now happening. I plant a bomb on the floor, it gets sucked up, and then I explode it into his face. That makes him vulnerable. Then I run towards him again with the claymore, hit him a few times, damage him, and then it's basically like phase 1. We echolocate him with arrows, do headshots, and then hunt him down. But yeah, basically the route is planned out in such a way that we perfectly have enough durability for all the Blights, like which are 8 phases. It's 4 elements like fire, water, wind, and electro, and every one of these has 2 phases, and our weapons end at the last phase of these Blights. We just are left with no weapons, basically. You will see what I mean with that a bit later on, after these Blights are done. So this was Fire Blight. We have 2 more phases to go until we go to the last 2 phases of this fight. As I said, there are lots of phases here going on. This is Thunder Blight, the absolute worst. The first part is easy. The first phase is easy, and for this fight we have also made the thunder resistant food, which I will eat right now. As you can see, I'm taking the skewer with the electricity signs, which allow me to basically shield electric attacks. So this short sword that I picked up has the mere purpose of destroying the shield of Thunderblight. We do a setup here with now the black claymore because the white claymore is out of durability. Shoot a few arrows here and then basically rinse and repeat until this phase is done. If you get lucky and get good hits with the black claymore, you can one cycle this guy, but it's rather difficult, I would say. So as you can see here, I'm just like parrying, destroying his shield again with the short sword. And the short sword can exactly destroy 4 shields until it breaks. So it is literally like so perfectly calculated with durability. You can see the white claymore is gone already because it's destroyed. The black claymore will also be destroyed and the sword will also be destroyed. We will have like 0 weapons left. This was Thunderblight phase 1. And now comes the single worst part of the entire run. Thunderblight phase 2. Thunderblight phase 2 is random. There is nothing you can do about it. He will spawn metal pillars into the ground, which like illuminate electricity, which do tons of damage, and we need to magnesis them and hold them into his face, which is 100% random. We have no way of telling where these pillars are, so we just run around, Magnesis and bless that we hit him like this. And this was perfect. This was first try, super beautiful, but this can look much, much worse. So then, after this is done, it's basically the same as in phase 1. This is the hard part, to get the Magnesis onto this pillar. We destroy his shield, stun lock him with the Black Claymore with a swing attack. Boom, boom. Swing one more time. Boom. Breaks. The weapon breaks. When a weapon breaks, it does critical damage, so it's more. And now we are out of weapons, and we have Ganon phase 1. Calamity Ganon phase 1. This is the real end boss. So what we're gonna do is, before the fight actually starts, we're gonna run around the arena with a beat count and pick up weapons that are conveniently placed here. So we have one more short sword, one more shield. Now I eat the defense buff because Calamity Ganon kills you with like most of the attacks that he has in one hit. So if I don't eat this defense food, he will one-hit me from the side, and I have to redo every single Blight. That's the problem with this run. I pick up 10 bomb arrows, and now I go like upright and pick up another white claymore. And the white claymore and the white short sword are enough to kill one phase of Ganon. But yeah, as I said, only one phase, unfortunately. So what we're gonna do is, for phase number 1, use all the arrows that we got from the Amiibos, and from, you can see there, one shield is gone. I parried the laser by accident just to protect myself, and if a laser hits your shield, it's gone. No matter what durability. This was the strongest shield in the game. It literally disappeared. So as you can see, we have quite a lot of bomb arrows now from all the chests that we picked up on the route, and we have lots of thunder arrows from the Amiibos, etc. So what we do now in phase number 1 is literally just chonk his health down slowly by spamming arrows at him. Headshots do double damage, so it is very, very important to try to get as many headshots as possible. Unfortunately, you cannot tell where he walks blindfolded. He walks super randomly. Now, another big problematic part is, you can see me spamming the menu here very often to try to eat mushrooms, because his attacks do like fire on the floor. And if you are unlucky, you will run into the fire and it will not make any sound that you get damaged. Now, one very important part here that I have not mentioned yet is, this game has a feature called one-hit protection. If you are on full health, which is 3 hearts, then no matter what attack hits you, you will survive with 0.25 hearts. Now, I say whatever attack hits you, but that's not true. Otherwise, we wouldn't need the defense buff, because Ganon has many attacks that just ignore this rule and kill you anyways. That's why we need this damage, this defense buff, the defense mushroom skewer, to protect us from these super strong attacks, so that these super strong attacks leave us at 0.25 hearts. So that is also, this one-hit protection is also the single reason why this is possible with 3 hearts. As you can see, like, these attacks, like, if you have 10 hearts, these attacks will knock you out, like, easily. But because it doesn't matter how many hearts we have, we can just easily eat all the food that we have and refill and then get another hit. So let me talk a bit about the attacks that Ganon can do here. You can see Ganon is now at the wall, which is the worst that he can do. If Ganon is at the wall, he will do 3 crazy attacks based on the Blights. Like, you can see, this is the spear from Water Blight. Before, he did the electric pillars, which are the worst attack that he can do. He can do like wind, he can do fire attacks, etc. If he's on the ground, it is easy to spam him with arrows and do much damage. As I said, you want to preferably hit him in the face, which does more damage. The laser here, I actually usually just continue to shoot arrows. I don't really care about the laser. Ancient arrows in his face, look at the damage. Ancient arrows in the face make so much damage. And then the remaining of the health, I just jump away with other arrows that I have. As you can see, I just keep shooting arrows, dodge the laser to the left, and then keep shooting arrows. He sometimes does melee attacks that you can parry. You will see this lots in phase number 2. You will notice why. But yeah, we basically want to conserve our durability of the claymores for phase 2. That's why arrows are very, very useful here. He's again on the wall. You can knock him down from the wall, actually, if you use ancient arrows or 2 bomb arrows or like 3 thunder arrows or something, I think. So you can knock him down from there. But I'm out of ancient arrows and bomb arrows already, so I need to kind of just live with it. Here he does the wind attack, a super fast blast. As you can see though, we have plenty of food. Like I take a very, very safe route in my attempts. And my route it has so much second shield is gone. We have 2 shields left only. If my route, like, it will not die because of health. If anything, then I can die because I stand accidentally in fire that I cannot hear. That's why I constantly like open the menu and try to heal also. And there we go. This was phase number 1. And now phase number 2 is basically the same fight, but you cannot damage him. The only way to damage him is to parry either a laser into his face or to perfectly dodge an attack, because that will give him, you can see here, perfect laser parry. We go to his head, do like a setup. There is a stun lock for phase number 2. That's why we want the Claymore to be not used at all. Now, this stun lock can potentially finish this entire phase without him standing ever up again. The problem is, at least for me personally, I find it extremely difficult to do. I had the wrong weapon here, so this was a very failed attempt. But you can basically stun lock him. You will see it definitely. Here I dodge his attack. This is the dodge with Flurry Rush, and this also does lots of damage, you can see. And with lots of damage, I mean like barely anything, but considering that we just got out of Great Plateau and finished the tutorial, this is a lot of damage for the end boss. Here you can see the flames that I'm talking about. You see on the floor there are all these flames, and if I run into them, I'm dead. So what you want to do in Ganon phase 2 is be very calm. Try to dodge all the attacks like I do here. Listen to what attack he does, try to dodge it, and as soon as you have an opportunity for a laser, because a laser enables the potential stun lock. Here I missed the dodge, I took a hit here, heal up, and then we are basically back. But yeah, preferably, I say preferably, you want a laser attack. Laser attacks are the best, which he doesn't give me at all right now. Very bad luck. You might ask how to time a laser parry, because it is very, very precise to time a laser. And that is very true. We try to stay as close as possible to Ganon always, to make the same timing for the laser every single time. When he's on the wall, on the other hand, we don't know how far away he is from us. That's why I'm currently debating, like, I have only 2 shields left and I don't want to lose them. And as I said, if a laser hits your shield, it is gone. That's why here I don't even try to parry it. Usually I would try if I had all shields, but I just try to dodge them and take as less damage as possible. Just in order, because I know the second phase has just started. This fight is pretty harsh and pretty long, as you can see. He's still at very much health. This is his shooting attack, and this one is actually timeable and parryable, because it does a very unique rhythm. Like, every time it hits your shield, like boom, boom. And if you just wait for the next bullet to come and keep this rhythm with your shield, you can parry it basically. Here you can see the stun lock, which failed because I hit him from the wall. The stun lock usually requires you to literally parry a laser, because otherwise it's too random with the timing. So maybe we'll get it right now. Laser, we are in position. I try to... Oh, I missed the parry. I lost my shield. I only have 1 shield left. If this shield is gone, it looks very dark for me. But we parry it perfectly. Ganon is down. 1, 2, 3 hits, jump cancel. Take the Claymore. And then we do double hits with a reverse swing. Time it correctly. Oh, I was 1 second too late. So this was perfect, actually. This was really perfect. But I was like a few milliseconds too late to initiate the stun lock. Very unfortunate. But another laser, another chance for a stun lock. Boom, perfect parry. Really impressive stuff. Go to his head. 1, 2, 3, jump cancel. Take the Claymore. Swing into his face, swing into his arms, go to the side, and he is stun locked. We continue spinning, boom, stun locked. Continue spinning, and a tiny bit too early, boom, get hit into the face. And as you can see, the stun lock does lots of damage. I took like a big chunk of his HP bar now down in like 1 second, because the stunlock is very, very strong. Mariana's PB is extremely impressive in this regard. He did the entire second phase with a single stunlock, which is so impressive to me, because it is such a difficult technique to pull off, in my opinion. This is like, when I looked at it, when I look at this stunlock, it doesn't look that hard as a speedrunner, but actually performing it while blindfolded in a stress situation of a potential PB, it's like so incredibly difficult. I cannot overstate this. And what I try here, this is the famous Fireball of Doom. If you don't have this defense buff, this will one-hit you, for example. But it's a very slow projectile, so what I usually do, it doesn't destroy your shield, so what I usually do is I just mash counter on the shield, and if I'm lucky, it gets hit. If I'm not lucky, I will get hit, and I will heal back. Here, I wanted to parry these lasers, but I didn't have my shield equipped for some reason. So I'm kind of lost in the menu right now, and I need to get back to track. I'm on the wrong page of the menu here. I hope I realize it. Yeah, I realize it. Because the menu makes like same sounds for all the menus, and sometimes it happened to me that I died for Ganon because I was in the wrong menu and I thought I healed, but I didn't actually. And you can see he has like 1 HP, which is very frustrating. He has 1 HP for such a long time, and he still like keeps so much damage into me. Like, this fight could have been much faster if I would have just got 1 more hit in the stun lock, for example. But oh well. 1 more parry. Can he get it? He gets it. Boom, into his face, and that's Ganon, ladies and gentlemen. That is the final boss. Very, very action-packed and insane fight, really. It's such a pleasure to see every single time. I think this is like a highlight of blindfolded speedrunning, a blindfolded Ganon fight here. Now, the run is unfortunately not over yet, because there is still the Dark Beast Ganon, which now at this point we are safe. If we die here, we will respawn right here. So the run is basically done. This is just like the glory walk home at the very end. Though this section is still very, very difficult, not to understate this. Usually what you would do in a casual playthrough is ride Epona, and then you need to hit with the Bow of Light, like rings of light that appear on Ganon made by Zelda. So, and here comes scope cancelling into play. As I said, with the scope cancel and the bow, you can get vertical aim in a consistent manner. What we do here is we normalize this entire fight by doing a very, 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 very specific setup of side hops and jumps and scope cancels to position ourselves right into position to hit these rings, as you could see right here. For example, for this one here, we jump 3 times to the left, scope once, and then we have the perfect position to snipe this leg and get damage into Ganon. And this entire fight is basically a auto-scroller where you have to input your setup, and it should work every single time. I say should because there is randomness a bit. If you're unlucky, he can do like attacks and you would need to do some backups, but it's rather unlikely that this happens. You can see also he's attacking you, and it's very close, but it's like basically scripted. So if you know how to dodge, then you know how to dodge. So I wait here with my setup, boom, hit the ring, go to the next one, and this is like all very, 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 very scripted. Though, as I said, it can easily still die at this point. Like, it is very easy to die, and especially after this ring comes the very scary part where I have died multiple times too in my PB attempts, because now we basically need to face one of his lasers, like face to face, and then do a very quick dodge to the left and then a dodge to the right to evade it. The thing is, if he does this laser, the whole game lags a bit. You can see it right now. So the game lags, and you kind of still need to time your jumps correctly, and you can see I dodged it perfectly here. And there's one more ring, and then that's it. So as you can see, very action-filled ending at the very end. The last ring appears right now, 3 arrows, and the third one will hit. Boom. And now the last goal that we have is we need to shoot an arrow into his eye. There are again multiple different strats that runners use. I personally do a beat count. Who would have thought? I'm the beat count guy. So I'm just waiting here. I listen for Zelda's voice lines. She speaks in French, which I have never mentioned, but French is the fastest language of the game. doesn't matter, but voice matters, and we play in French. And she says something, blah 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 blah, et toi. And after this toi, you can start a beat count, jump, pull up the glider, slow-mo, boom, and that's time. 1 hour 48, pretty good PB. Didn't die to the end fights, lots of tiny mistakes here and there, so as you can see on my sum of best, which is 20 minutes faster than my PB, or this run rather, like this run is definitely improvable by quite a lot. Just need the time to practice this a tiny bit more. I have started doing runs of this like not a long time ago. I was rather constantly preparing new routes, etc. So very cool to see that I could get such a fast time so fast and consistently. Especially, I think this route that I use is pretty consistent, which is nice. I have no worries that I can consistently get such a time now. Yeah, rather it will be. I think it will be rather easy to still improve this, if I can say so myself. Anyways, that was Blindfolded Breath of the Wild. I hope you enjoyed the ride. I hope it was not too much information and too long. There's lots of stuff going on in this game. There are lots of tiny nuances that usually you would not notice, but that's exactly why I do this commentary. I hope that it will help some of the viewers to get some appreciation for the game, as well as interest for the blindfolded speedrun. Yeah, I wish to submit this to some marathons, probably. We will see how that turns out, but I will also still keep grinding for better runs and PBs. Just, yeah, this is what we have right now, and this is the video I'm posting to YouTube probably. So thank you very much for watching. I don't want to speak too long. If you're interested in blindfolded speedruns, check out our website, blindfoldedgaming.com. You can find all the runs there. We have an awesome community, as I said, many talented people who are all willing to help if you are wanting to learn this game. I also am personally, you can always write me in the comments if you have any questions. Tell me what parts you liked about this, and if you like this style of commentary, as always. I really like to do these kind of commentaries because I think there are so many tiny details in blindfolded speedruns that usually would go unnoticed otherwise. So I really enjoy to open this up a bit more to the public. And yeah, we have saved Hyrule from the evil, and that's it from my side, ladies and gentlemen, really. I wish you all a very nice day, a very pleasant evening, morning, day, and see you around next time with more blindfolded speedruns. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Hey, if you liked this video, please go ahead and check out my Patreon page. I have many cool perks there, and it would support me in making more blindfolded speedruns in the future. This video is sponsored by Benlitz, Bob Farrell, Boris, Funkylicious, ZXMany, VR4300 and Kevin. Thank you all so much.